Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Matt Hogan, and I work as a virtual meeting specialist for VHB, and we're part of the team that's come together to help bring this exciting project to life. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that this is a hybrid meeting, and the proceedings tonight are also being broadcast live on CCTV. So, hybrid meeting, what does that mean? In addition to us gathered here tonight in the room, we're also going to be joined by participants online. We'll be recording and broadcasting everything that happens in this room and sharing it with those on the virtual space and watching on CCTV. And most importantly, you're going to occasionally hear some voices and instructions coming from the air. Let me take a minute and introduce one of those voices right now, my coworker, Alan Belniak. Alan?
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for welcoming me into the room digitally. As Matt mentioned a moment ago, we work together to host these virtual and hybrid meetings, and we're excited to do so once again with you this evening. We've got a handful of folks in our virtual room that I'm going to let in just a moment. Right now, the current count is 7, which is great to join the balance of you all in the room. As Matt mentioned a moment ago, we have an exciting program. There is going to be a point when you all will break up into physical breakout rooms and move. The folks here virtually will do the same thing, except from the comfort of their own home. And then later on in the evening, we're all going to reconvene back in this room here again as one big group. So Matt, with that, I'm going to hand it back to you, and it would now be a good time to bring our folks into the room.
All right, I think we're ready. So okay. Alan is going to bring these folks in. We'll give it just a moment for everybody to get in and get situated. Let me try that again. Get in and get situated. And now we're going to hear from Ilana Blanchard, the city project manager. Ilana?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Really excited to see you all here tonight. And just overwhelmed to be able to be starting this project at this stage. So I've been working for the city for 10 years and have been working on this project since nearly the beginning of that time. And we now have funding to move it forward. So that is a huge step, and glad that you're here to help us figure out how to do that. Just a few housekeeping items. There's doors behind you, both to the left and the right. In the case of emergency, please use them. Bathrooms are down the hall to the left. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Travis Washington, who's helping to record this for Channel 17, and you'll be able to access the recording later if you want to refresh your memory of anything. And that is, it is being live streamed. One other item is that we do have assistive listening in this room. So if you need a device, Andrew's over there by the window. He can help you. I can help you. If you have a T-coil, you can turn that on and get a direct feed into a hearing aid, or we have headphones and a receiver. And then the only other thing is that tonight, I want you to think with your heart. These guys, and I'm going to introduce them in a moment, they're going to think with their brains. They've got a lot of brain in this room, but you guys are here to think about what, as a community, is important to you. So, Eddie Padmo, I said it really well, and she promised me a creamy, and then I immediately forgot. So, Eddie Padmodi-Putro is from Urban Idea Lab, and she is the urban designer / architect on this project. And she just comes from an amazing background of bridge and transportation design. So we're really excited to have her on this project. And she always says the right thing, which is kind of nice. So no pressure there. Let's take it. And then her colleague, Dawn Kinvatter. So, and then I'm just going to work around the room. Tyler Vendituoli is the project artist. And you may be familiar with his work, the gooses in the park at the Stormwater Pond for Market Street. Chris Smith is with Majeski and Masters, and they have been around for a really long time designing bridges. And Chris has worked on a ton of bridges, and we're really excited to have them involved in this project. And when I say designing, I mean the like hardcore calculation modeling, crazy stuff. So huge projects. And we're just excited he's come here to work on our little bridge. So, and then I want to say Wayne, but I could be totally wrong. Okay, so Wayne also has a bridge background. And I'm going to skip over or else I'll be here all night because we have about 27 people. Brad Ketterling works with sustainability and the environment for VHB. And then Aaron is, where are you? Right behind me is Aaron, and he's the project manager for VHB. So he's leading the giant team of consultants. So I'm going to hand it over to him now. So thank you all for coming.
All right, thank you. We're thrilled to be here tonight to kick this project off and to hear from all of you. Wanted to start off. Oops. This is just a slide of who's really here tonight and represented, and these are the company logos. Did want to mention just FHWA is a big part of this project. VTrans is a big part of this project from both a funding standpoint and from a technical guidance standpoint as well. So before we get into the scoping study, I'm going to pass the mic over to Eddie, and she's just going to go through a few items for how the workshop is going to function tonight, the breakout sessions, kind of the initiatives there, yeah.
Hi. Ooh. Thank you everyone for coming here. We're so excited about starting on this project. We're outsiders, many locals, and we're going to come together trying to design something for you. And so whatever we can hear, we're here to listen. And there's no wrong answer. And we just want to gauge and understand what's important, what's concerning, what's exciting. And in the end, we want to make sure this connection, this bridge is going to be joyful for everyone. And so we would love to hear, the most even crazy ideas or great ideas or mundane ideas. We would love to hear all of that. I'm very happy to see that we've already started that while we were eating. So that's yay, very good. I hope the remote people are doing the same thing. And so logistically, number one, we're going to just do a very quick presentation, and then we're going to do a breakout session. The presentation is going to be very, very quick. I'm going to show some example to just give inspiration. And programmatically, what we would like to do is whatever you come up with or you tell us, that's going to be the basis for us to move forward. So it is so important because it's going to help us make sure what we are going to come up is going to be something that is something that you want, something that you like. And also, this is not going to be the only time we're coming here, but now we're just going to listen. And that's all we're going to do now. Thank you. Did I miss anything?
Thank you, Eddie. Nope, you did great. There are a couple things maybe to just expand on there. We are going to go into the breakout sessions, and we are going to solicit feedback in a couple of different ways. We'll explain that further when we get into those breakout sessions. Like Eddie said, think big, think wild. No ideas are bad ideas. We want to record everything. We want to kind of get the full flavor. This is your community. This is going to be your bridge. So we want you to be proud of it when it's done. This is about listening tonight, and so we likely won't be giving too much on our thoughts. We really want to hear your thoughts. We'll be back in front of you in a couple of months and share a lot of our thoughts at that point in time. And then if you don't, if you leave the meeting tonight and you're like, oh, I've got another idea, I've got another piece of input, you can always get in touch with Alana. But also check the city website. We're going to be putting on a link to a virtual room where you can view the materials from tonight, and you can view some of the input, and you can give more input there. There will be a comment form. We'll have a mural board on there. So if you want to give additional input over the course of the next week or so, that will be there as well. So very quickly, this project is, it's been around a while. There was a scoping study that took place from 2016 through 2019. And really, the couple things to highlight, there was a purpose and need statement that came out of that scoping study, and there was a preferred alignment for the pathway and the bridge. This is the purpose and need statement, purpose of the bridge, the purpose of the project. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it is something that is going to guide our decision-making and guide our thoughts as we advance the project and we develop concepts and we move into design. This is from the one of the scoping studies that was completed in 2018. It is available on the CCRPC website if you're interested in the scoping study. And this is the preferred alignment. It was actually approved by the City Council, and the pathway alignment follows the interstate ramps. So this is the southbound on-ramp. I-89 here, north is upward, south is at the bottom of the page. So the pathway would follow the alignment of the ramp. The bridge would be down here at the south end, south of the interchange, just where the ramps begin, and then back up the other side following the ramp on the other side. We are looking to use that alignment. There are some variations, obviously, with geometry, but we really want to know the look and the feel that you'd like to see there. What amenities do you want to see along that pathway? So the project process, as we go through the process, we're really kind of kicking off the conceptual design phase. We're developing concepts. We'll go through this public process. There'll be 3 public touch points tonight where we're listening. We'll be back in front of you in a couple of months to talk about the concepts we're developing, and then ultimately we'll develop a final concept, and then we'll move that into conceptual plans. Following the phase A, which is project definition, we'll complete that in the November timeframe. Then our team will move into the design phase. Design will go from November of this year to about June of 2024, and then construction is anticipated in 2025 and 2026. So the steps that we're going to follow, and this is really the public process, so the steps we're going to follow for the concept design, really it's about the public engagement. And so we're starting that public engagement now. We're meeting with stakeholders. This is our first public workshop tonight. and our initial concept brainstorming comes out of that. We then take all of that information, we synthesize it down, we develop our concepts, and then we're back in front of the public, back in front of the stakeholders for the second round. The same engagement. We'll have another workshop here. It'll be advertised, and we encourage you to come and participate with that. At that workshop, we'll present 3 concepts for consideration, and really want to know the public's, the stakeholders' input into those. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Mixing and matching from the concepts. We'll then, after that feedback, we'll then synthesize that information again down, and we'll develop a single concept, and we'll get into some more detailed conceptual design, and then come back in front of the public for a third round, reporting back, getting any final input, any final adjustments to the concept before it goes in front of the City Council for their vote and approval, and before our team then moves into conceptual design. The project does have a budget, a total budget of about $14.55 million. A large portion of that comes from an FHWA RAISE grant. It's about $9.7 million. And then local funding sources. Part of that is TIF district funding, which there will be a vote on that. There was a couple of slides ago. So just want to flip through a couple of very quick existing conditions photos. We took these the end of last week, and so these are present day photos. And if you can imagine what we were talking about related to the alignment, here's our ramp. So here's the location of our pathway. Our bridge would be in this area, and then again, pathway up on the other side. Another view of the bridge location. A view of where the pathway would be on the east side of the interstate. A view of where the pathway would be on the west side of the interstate. This is looking south, so the bridge would be here, pathway here, pathway here. Again, looking south. And then looking south. So I'm going to have Eddie come back up. I'm going to have Don come up as well. They've got some example photos they want to go through. Eddie will explain some of the bridge photos, and Don will explain some of the pathway and retaining wall photos. The photos that you're going to see are, most of them are printed out, so as we go to the breakout sessions, you will be able to see them there. So this will be a quick run through, and then if there's something you like, you can look at it in greater detail when we go to the breakout sessions.
Hi. So basically, as part of the design tool, we usually compile these pictures, and they can be random. And the idea is to look at all these other bridges or other elements all over the world, and to just give us an inspiration or something to aspire to, or just to tickle our creativity in thinking, is this what we want for our bridge or our pathways? So this is a bridge that we thought was really interesting. It's in, I don't know all the bridges that I use here, but this is in Vancouver, Washington, and it's basically a pass-through, but instead of the regular bridge, straightforward that you usually see, this one incorporate landscaping. So when you're going through it, you feel almost like not over a highway. And we thought that that might be something that is so different. That might be an interesting idea. Next. And this is a new bridge in Providence, Rhode Island. It used to be a highway overpass. They kept the what do you call that? The foundation, and then that was the requirement. And then figured out a way that make this bicycle and pedestrian. And what was really interesting here, again, is like not just a regular bridge, but trying to make it steps. There's even area that is more like a stage. And so, when we're thinking about bridge, let's not, what do you call that? Let's not limit ourselves to like the traditional thing. Just let's explode and think of other ways. Next. Yes. Here, it shows that lighting is so important to be designed. So it's not just, throwing light willy-nilly, but trying to make sure it's integrated and it's mindfully designed so it still feels safe, but yet it really, showcase the bridge itself. Next. I should do it this faster. This is in Austin, Texas. Again, it's like interesting because, it's, they expand it in the middle. So then it's like a nice place for people to look over. Granted, you might not want to look over the highway, but still the idea of having, not just the same width might be an interesting notion. Next. Yes, this is another view. Next. So this series is an interesting one, and we were just thinking about, it is over the highway, so you might not want it to be transparent. And so what are the different ways that you might treat the site that makes you feel more safe, more enclosed without being caged in? Next. And here, of course, it's I don't know if we can do this for this bridge, but the idea of having a coverage, maybe it's not a full coverage, just some area of respite might be an interesting notion. Again, here it's just about, what we call it secondary elements, but it's actually just railing, signage, and all this stuff. It would be really nice to think about it. And here is another notion. This is again from the Providence. We can have a very simple bridge, but maybe we can use cladding to make it like interesting and kind of iconic next. Or how to do the railing next. Just very fast now. Or make it a very interesting, incorporating art into the bridge itself. Thank goodness we're going to have an artist work with us. And here what I love about this is also, you have a railing, but then you integrate into the railing a story about the bridge or a story about the area. And it's not something that is just an add-on. Yes. Again, we love this because of how the lighting is incorporated, and it creates this area of activity or area of respite. Okay. Next. And so here is another idea that maybe we don't want it, again, to be transparent, but there's still some transparency, but this might be an interesting idea for a bridge over the highway. Again, this is incorporating art into the structure itself. So the art is not an add-on, more something that is functional but beautiful. Next. And here, I thought is an interesting idea. This bridge is going to be quite high, and we don't want to make it go down really fast, so it has to be very, gradual. And how do we come up with something that still be functional, still maneuver the different elevation, but it use the lighting, the art component, the transparency, so you feel safe, you feel special. All of this is something that we hope we can do and deliver for you. Thank you.
So we've seen some interesting examples of what you can do with the bridge, but you need to have paths to get up to the bridge. And one of the things I'd like to do quickly is go through a couple of examples of some of the different ways that we'll be dealing with the different design issues. We have, in this case, the sense of enclosure that Eddie was talking about on the bridge itself. This can continue along the path. Maybe we want to create a barrier on the highway side. And then the width of the path. This is a good example of a path that's wide enough for both bicycles and pedestrians. You can have two-way traffic, and there's room to pass as well. And we want to make this pathway welcome to everyone. And as our population is aging, that's going to include people who may have some mobility issues and may need to stop and rest fairly frequently. So we want to make sure we have amenities like benches and other stopping and resting places for folks. And the bridge is going to be 20 feet or so over the highway. How do you get up and down? When you're heading back to Route 2, it's probably going to be a fairly straight shot. But if you want to make connections, say, to University Mall or Quarry Hill, we may end up doing some switchbacks, which is an example here, or other means. This is some of the issues we're going to be looking at. Would love to get your folks' opinions on those. And of course, we want this to be a year-round facility. And part of the design issues is going to be, can we find places to put plowed snow and make sure that it can be clear all the time, 365 days a year. And then there may be the need for retaining walls along some of the pathways. There are a huge variety of materials and techniques that we can use for this. This is just one example here. The nice thing about retaining walls is some of the ones that we can build and design, the components allow us to put vegetation on them as well. So it can be a green wall to sort of match that existing green space that's out there today. Thanks.
So we're gonna break into the breakout sessions, and this is really where we really want to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your ideas. Did everybody get a little slip of paper? Most. So I think we're doing 3 breakout sessions, and they'll be back in the community center where we had the food. And there's one for bridge focus, there's one for pathway focus, and then there's a third group for project sustainability, environmental concerns, or other areas of interest. And we're going to do about 20 minutes, and then we're going to rotate. And I'll just say, if you are really into, like, for example, talking about the bridge, you're more than welcome to just stay at the bridge table and continue to talk about the bridge. You don't have to rotate, but you're given the option to rotate to all 3 if you want to. So with that, I'll say let's break. And then
Hey, Aaron. This is Alan from VHB. With the number of folks we have joining virtually, where are we going to be conducting the virtual breakout room?
we'll just do the one. We'll just do the one,
Right.
and we'll do it right here in this room.
Here. Okay, great.
So
Thank you.
So that CCTV captures it.
Right. Got it. That's what I thought. So for the virtual folks, I saw a message in the chat. Great question if we're going to form a breakout. We've got the right number of people here virtually to kind of just keep ourselves together. So no breakout room necessary. You guys can all just sit tight, and we're actually going to form a breakout group on the fly right here. So thanks.
You have the key? Somebody can use my computer. Okay. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay. Stop upstairs. Can you go grab your laptop? Yeah. All right.
Alan, did you hear that? We're just doing a little setup here, and we'll be ready to go in about 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
For everyone still here, in case you missed it, just saw the message in the chat. Thank you, Chris. Just want to make sure you all saw that. So sit tight. Now's a good time to refresh your water, stretch your legs, and we'll get started in just a moment.
Also not a bad time if you left the windows rolled down in your car like I just did, as we're getting a pretty significant storm rolling in right now.
So what are we looking at? 21 minutes starting now? That'll get us right to about 10 or 11 after.
Yes. Yeah. You can read it pretty much. Chelsea. All right? Yeah.
They closed the senior center.
Oh.
Where do we want to do the third group? Just right here maybe, or?
Oh, they completely, is it locked?
They closed the senior center?
Once again, to all of our online folks, bear with us for just a minute. Just dealing with some little logistics things here at City Hall.
For all of our online and virtual folks, thanks so much for having your lines muted at the moment to prevent any background noise. But of course, once we start the breakouts, as Aaron and team have mentioned earlier, we really looking forward to getting your feedback. So once the breakouts start, please don't be shy. Unmute yourself, share your comments, feedback, reaction, all those kinds of things. So thank you.
It's closed? Like locked? Who's there?
Jeff and Sierra are coming down as well, so Jeff, Sierra.
We're getting set up in just a moment.
Good, and then Travis.
Hi, Alan. This is Matt. We've got our facilitators here setting up. Give us just a minute.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt.
Feel free if somebody wants to set up here at the podium as well. We got space and power. I think that's still Aaron's screen that we're seeing. Mhm. Hey, Alan, just confirming you can still see us here in the auditorium?
Yes, right now the camera's trained on, looks like 3 people up at the front table, and I can see just the bottom half of the screen.
That's what we want. That's great.
Perfect. For the online folks, this might be a good quick run through tutorials. I know, let me turn my video on. So for those of you who didn't see me before, I know we've all been on our fair share of Zoom calls in the past 2 years and what seems like maybe 2,000 calls. But depending on what version of Zoom you have, down below in that tray of buttons, there's a button that says reactions. If you click that open, that's how you can also raise your hand. But there's a couple other things too, like a checkbox for maybe I agree or a red X, I don't agree, thumbs up, clapping, waving.
Go back to the link.
So just want to point those out to you to perhaps consider using when we get into things or not, but just want to make sure you all know that they're there.
Go back to that link. We gotta scroll up to find it.
Alan, we should be able to see our 3 esteemed presenters up here on the screen. Audio is live. I believe if you're ready, we're just about ready here.
All right. we are ready. All of our virtual folks are still with us. And I know it seems kind of weird to go from the main meeting into a breakout room with not having done anything, but here we are. So that's great. And so with that, I believe we are ready for you all to kind of take the show and run with it and walk us through this breakout and solicit the feedback from our esteemed citizens and residents.
All right, good evening. My name is Wayne Simmons, and I work for VHB. I retired from the Agency of Transportation about 18 months ago, and now I'm working for VHB with the agency. I spent a lot of years working on highway bridges that are straight and relatively boring, so I'm pretty excited to be here tonight to imagine what a more interesting structure could be for this pedestrian bridge. And I'm going to be facilitating, and I have two co-facilitators with me, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Bagiaki. I'm also with VHB. I'm a transportation engineer, so I work on a lot of different roadway projects, but also the pedestrian and bicycle projects across the state of Vermont, and echo Wayne's excitement for this exciting transportation project. And I'll pass it over to Sierra.
I'm Sierra Ford. I am the third member here from VHB. I am also a transportation engineer with Jeff, so worked together with him on sidewalks, bike paths. We recently did the Burlington bike path project. So I'm super intrigued by all of the pedestrian and bicycle facilities, so I'm really excited to see what this bridge will turn out to be in the future.
So we have a really rough agenda. We're going to spend approximately 20 minutes on 3 different areas in the breakout section. We're going to do a 20-minute session on ideas about the bridge structure itself, and then another 20 minutes on path ideas and discussion. And then lastly, we're going to do another 20 minutes on environmental sustainability, and I guess we're calling it other, but if there are other aspects of the project that don't fit neatly into path or bridge that folks would like to give us some input on, that would be excellent. But before we jump into those 3 topics, I think I'm going to let Jeff speak just for a minute on the tools that we have for your input.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to use a tool called Mural tonight. So this is a collaborative tool that we are sharing on our screen now. So you should be able to see that when we do this presentation. But we're also going to post a link to this mural in the chat of the Zoom meeting so that folks who feel so inclined can go follow this link, go to a web browser. And what you're going to be able to do is see all the interactive collaboration that we're going to be doing in this meeting in real time. And you can also do a little bit of collaborating yourself. So if you have some notes to share with what we're going to talk about, if you have any comments to add, there's going to be a couple tools for you to do that. Sarah, you're sharing the screen, right? So on the left side of the view here, you're going to see a couple toolbars. And I think the 2 we're going to point out tonight that are going to be the most useful. There's a sticky note icon on the left there called text, and this is where you can place a sticky note. So you can basically drag your thoughts. If you get into a topic and you want to add something that you'd like to share with everybody here tonight, you can place a sticky note and then type out your comment. This is totally the same way as if you were in the room with us and we had a big poster on the wall. You can write your thoughts on a sticky note and stick it on the board. That's what we've got for you here with the mural. And then the other tool is actually going to be more of a free-handed drawing tool where you can sketch in something if you feeling artistically creative in this format to draw your thoughts perhaps more than type them out. So feel free to use either of those tools. And for those of you who feel intimidated by those tools, totally understand. We're here to help you get your thoughts out of your brain and onto this mural. So feel free to unmute yourself, say hello, and try to tell us your thoughts, and we can make the point to put it into the mural using those tools. So don't be shy. Feel free to collaborate with us best you can. And so, Sierra, I saw you put the link in the chat. So folks on the call can click on that link. It should open in a browser, and you should be able to see this mural, or you can just follow along with us in the Zoom meeting and see what we're doing here.
So before we jump in, do we have the ability to open the mics to see if anybody has any questions or initial thoughts that are out
Sure.
there?
So most people are muted by default, but you feel free to unmute your own microphone. Martin, you raised your hand. Thanks so much for the decorum. Feel free to take yourself off mute, Martin, and share your thought.
Thank you. First, I want to say, as a bicyclist who does daily commutes, I am so pleased to see this project moving forward. And also, Sierra, hearing you worked on the bike path, thank you very much. I do enjoy it almost every day of the week. The one thing that strikes me is we're speaking about the burden that a path may present to the elderly. As a bicyclist, I know there's just the annoyance of having to go out of my way to cross a street instead of being allowed to simply cross it. And with the current path design, we are taking pedestrians on what I am estimating to be half a mile, 3/4 of a mile out of their way each way. So that's a mile and a half round trip, which is an extra 30 minutes of walking or more. These are just guesstimates on my part. Isn't it possible to find a path that is more direct, that allows people who are self-powered to have the shorter path than force them to take the longer path while allowing cars to have the more direct path? So for example, could there be a way to elevate people from ground level near the Staples Plaza, perhaps a couple of switchbacks to bring them to road level, Route 2 level, cross the intersection, and then again use a series of switchbacks to lower back to street level, close to the Shell station, CVS store in that area, rather than making them go all the way around.
So you want to take that?
I would just say, should we qualify that as a path comment,
Yes,
and maybe we
absolutely,
can
yes.
sketch that into our mural of that alignment that you suggested.
Thank you.
So Martin, thank you for the comment, and we're being purposely aloof tonight in terms of responding to technical questions, which is we're basically taking the feedback and we'll bring it back to the design team to definitely consider that, and we're purposely not answering in a technical way tonight. So please don't think that our aloofness means that we're not interested in the comment, because we absolutely are, and I think that you will be heard on that comment. So actually, I think that is there anybody else that has any initial thoughts that they'd like to share?
We saw Chris raise their hand. Just before we let Chris speak, I just want to point out one thing. We did have one telephone person dial in, and person on the telephone, thanks for joining us. If you want to raise your hand, you can do so with your telephone. That's *9. That's going to give you the same ability to raise your hand like everyone else, and *9 lowers it. So just if you want to speak out, just let us know, or just take yourself off mute. With that, Chris, please share your comment or thought with us.
Thanks very much. I will echo what I just heard shared, and I put a little post-it down there. I'm a bike commuter as well, and I wouldn't do what is being proposed. I would just bike along the same route right across the interstate the way that it's proposed. So thinking about, is there possibilities of having access at U-Mall or whatever is directly across, so somebody can just do the little short jump over. And I dropped in there a link to a bike elevator in Madison, Wisconsin, as one option of if it is getting up to a higher level. There's just a video from that elevator at the Monona Terrace as an example. I have lots of other ideas, but I will let other people share before I jump in with 18 ideas.
All right, well, thank you. So I think that we've kind of jumped into some good discussion about the path. And I'm going to just, I guess, call an audible and say, let's continue with the conversation on path ideas. And, I think some of the leading questions that we had were really about, what qualities or characteristics are you interested in? What is it that you'd like to experience on the path? And I think we've heard from Martin that, his experience is more of a transportation and, and to get from one place to the other. And it also sounds like, I'm sorry, I've lost the name of the second, Chris, is also a commuter. Are there any other thoughts on how you might use the path or what would make you enjoy the experience of the path more?
I'm a walker. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm a walker, and I walk for distance, so it doesn't bother me as much. But actually, it occurred to me as I watched this evolve that I would probably continue to walk on Williston Road because my experience is that cyclists don't always pay attention to pedestrians the way we might like them to. So I think if it's going to be a really useful bridge, and some of the pictures really made it look like it could be, we need to make sure that it's very clear that the cyclists have a really good path that they can ride, but that there is also a place for the pedestrians to feel safe. I was walking tonight, and two cyclists rode by really fast, and if they had said on your left, I would have been fine. But I think we can build a bridge that alleviates the necessity to educate people about saying on your left.
You capturing that one, Sarah?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Very good comment. Thank you.
So we kind of have a format here of three different kind of topics to discuss. I'm glad we jumped right into this because the kind of unique thing about this online group is we're not going to do the rotation that the other groups are doing tonight. So they're all sitting in distinct tables to talk about bridge and path and environmental. And I think this is actually a nice format. We can
absolutely
let the conversation go where it wants to go. So if everyone has any other thoughts as we go, don't feel bound by this structure. We really just want your thoughts when you're feeling them.
Great. Looks like
a couple hands raised.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Dan and Martin again. I put it in the chat, but if you guys want to turn your video on, some of us have our videos on. I know I'm not in the room with you, but hey, look, I'll break the ice to make us all feel warm and cozy. Go right ahead. Dan, the floor is yours if you want to share your comment.
Thanks. It's dark. My son's just going to sleep. Thanks for hosting this meeting. I appreciate it. I just jumped on about 10 minutes ago. I live in Burlington, and I'm one of probably single-digit percentage people who actually ride directly on Williston when I need to get to South Burlington. But just looking at the design in the middle, I echo what was already said, that adding that distance is bowing down to just this huge waste of land and space that is car-centric infrastructure. And that if somebody like me wants to ride it, they'll just ride it. And then adding, if it's a round trip, that much distance, it's just, I just think it's a poor design, and it should be a direct route so that pedestrians and cyclists can get to where they need to go in a direct manner and not have to sacrifice time and everything else to feel safe. So a direct, protected physical infrastructure is what I would look for. So that's my comment, and thanks for hosting this meeting.
Thank you. And Martin?
Yes, I was going to comment on aesthetics since that was raised as an issue. The Williston Road crossing right now is not particularly aesthetically appealing. I think almost any alternative will be the equal or an improvement. In terms of the designs that we were shown, this is Vermont. And verdant in our name implies green, so I like the green wall quite a bit. The art was fun, but I think after 2 or 3 times over the bridge, I would stop seeing it. So I don't know if I would be highly invested in that type of decoration of the bridge itself. A pedestrian who's on the bridge longer might feel differently. But again, to echo what I said earlier and what 2 other cyclists have now repeated, we would probably just ignore the what I'll call the bypass and stay on Williston Road because it just takes us so far out of the way.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth, Martin, but I think what I'm hearing you say is that you value the material choices and some of the aesthetics of the bridge or path, including green, more than the art or like decorations per se that are added to the bridge. Does that capture your thought?
Yes.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Sounds like we have definitely a lot of feedback on the route of the path, but if we could try to focus a little also on what you just alluded to, Martin, the aesthetics of the path, or like what you guys want to see out of the materials that are used, or what would make you happy to ride over it if it is for pleasure maybe, or if it did have to be on this alignment, what would you prefer it to be like? And if you were going to spend the time to cross over it, is there anything that comes to mind that you'd like to see?
I like the space that was sort of an arborist's dream, and with some trees and things that look like Vermont, as opposed to the art. Let's have things that are more natural and sort of part of who we are.
Yeah, I agree. I think trees would be great. I posted up saying I don't think it should be solid walls because it's too easy to add graffiti. So if there is going to be walls, something not spray paintable, but the trees would be something like that.
Great.
Anybody else want to jump in with some thoughts on the materials?
Sarah, if your screen's controlled, do you want to pan over to some of the example images that we looked at before? Yeah. Up on the left, I believe. Yeah, I can see my mouse floating around there. Yeah, so there's some great photos here to kind of ponder, I think, from different other bridge examples, and would love to hear some reactions on some of the things we like. We heard some great feedback on a lot of the green and the greenery and the dislike for the wall for graffiti purposes.
I think the lights on one of them, those low level lights, I think it's really important to have a well lit path for those who are commuting at night, for safety, as well as being able to see pedestrians, dogs, bikes, whatever happens to be out there.
So Chris, you were suggesting that you like the lights that are brighter as opposed to those that might be lower level and more decorative?
Well, I like them to be low, right? I don't want them to pollute the night sky, but having it be so you can see what you're doing and be able to see, like if you're on Kennedy right now at night, you can't see anybody. And depending on how you're riding, like on Spear Street, if you're going to South Burlington at night, you have the people's traffic headlights in your face, so it's hard to see what's coming at you. So depending on how it's actually being positioned and what kind of buffer there is between traffic, you want people to be able to see what's happening on the path. So if the path isn't lit, that can be hard if there's cars coming at you, which I guess there would be the way that it's being proposed, because they'd be coming up the ramp depending on which way you're going, I guess.
Yeah, depending on which way you're going, you could be in the direction or the opposite direction of vehicles. Yeah, that's a good point about lighting. Anybody want to chime in on one of the prompt questions here? I think is a good one. Other bridges that you've seen that are memorable to you? We love example bridges at this stage in the design, and I would love to, if anybody has any experiences that they've had that they'd like to share for inspiration.
Sorry, I had my hand raised, but I think I don't know how to do it. Made the typical Zoom mistake. My name is Christine Ford. I'm a transportation planner with the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, and I worked on the original scoping study that was done for this project. And I mean, I think regarding design, like the hope would be that it could be something that would be a draw in itself, like it would be a place where people would want to go. And certainly when we did the other study, the issues of the route were definitely, we had a lot of conversation about that and moving away from Route 2. But, you know, one is potentially an opportunity to get into the mall and perhaps across to Market Street. So that would kind of, you know, alleviate that issue of just coming from Route 2 and going back to Route 2, but having some other destinations as well. And just for people, I mean, that it's very difficult to cross the Wilson, the Route 2 bridge and all the ramps and uncontrolled movement. So I think, you know, some people are just not going to do that. So it's not going to be the solution for everybody, but I think for some people and potentially going to the mall, going, you know, other locations. But yeah, so something, I'm not a designer, but I think I love these designs. I think something attractive would be really awesome.
Thank you, Christine. Good to see you again.
Looks like Martin's hand is up again.
Oh.
Yeah, and I apologize. I don't mean to hog the microphone, but a couple of comments. I'm from New York City originally, and going up to the George Washington Bridge and over the Hudson River and back down into Fort Lee, New Jersey, was a relatively direct route. It would have been very annoying if I had to go all the way downtown to cross the Hudson and then go back up again. So, you know, if I were going to the mall, maybe having an off-ramp to the mall would be great, but I'm commuting. I'm going on Williston Avenue to get from point A to point B. I'm not necessarily going to the mall. And I think that's probably true of the other commuters who have spoken, and to a large number of the cyclists. Our destination is not the mall, so while having an off-ramp to the mall might be convenient, having it a forced destination is an inconvenience. How can I say this? I really like the idea of a beautifully designed bridge. There's the wooden pedestrian bridge that goes over Route 127 in Burlington near the Route 127 bike path. I don't know if people are familiar with that. And there's also a bicycle/pedestrian bridge that's not as attractive, but essentially it's a suspension bridge with the towers leaning inward, also crossing Route 127. That bike path, since it goes through a wooded area next to the Ethan Allen homestead, is very attractive. And both of those bridges, but especially the wooden bridge, are physically attractive. You know, I would design this as much for durability and low maintenance cost as I would for aesthetics. So I think you've heard from a couple of us that we appreciate the greenness of Vermont and natural appointments to decorate the path. But we're less concerned about some of the aesthetics of the other materials or decorations on the bridge.
Yeah, thank you for that point. I think, you know, that the durability comment really kind of lands in the sustainability bucket, because in one sense it is trying to build a bridge that's sustainable for the community to maintain. So I think that's a point that fits neatly into that bucket. Any other thoughts on, have you traveled somewhere and you don't have to limit yourself just to the bridges that we have pictures of. If you've traveled somewhere and you really enjoyed a bridge or you thought that it would be neat to have something like that, we'd love to hear those examples as well.
Looks like Dan.
Dan?
I'll chime in again. Yeah, thanks. I think what matters to me is what happens. I'm not sure of the plan, but what happens on the west side and the east side. Hopefully, it'll go straight and stay with Route 2 and not do this big dip to the south. But how you'll get on this and where it'll dump you off, because if it dumps you off on the 6-lane road or a 4-lane road, or there's a slip lane, and it's just, you get the bike lane ends sign, and then you're just kind of screwed. Actually connecting it to stuff really, really matters. I was just wondering if you've thought about that.
I think that's definitely something that we do need to carefully consider in the design, and I think that's really good feedback for the path. Where it begins and terminates is going to be key. So thank you for that comment.
Okay, thank you.
I will echo that, and I just put a Post-it to that effect. The worst place here is actually just west of this whole thing. There is no bike path. You're on a dotted line if you want to go straight into Burlington.
You're all doing a great job. There's some really great feedback on this mural right now.
So, we can come back to either the path or the bridge. And we did have one comment on sustainability and environmental. Let's jump to that bucket for just a moment and hear if any of you have any ideas or thoughts on sustainability, the environment, social concerns, economic concerns, or any other that maybe you're thinking about at this time.
So I put a Post-it in there about solar and not using salt. It's particularly if it's going to be a vegetated pathway, and if it can have solar, maybe it can be covered so it's not so snowed upon, and it could also, solar could be used to heat the path instead of salted.
Yeah, interesting.
Heated instead of salted.
And then you'd actually suggest that the panels would be installed over the path, or at least partially over the path. Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I think that's a brilliant idea, Chris. Thank you. And also to charge batteries to power the lights overnight. Environmental justice issues are significant, but I think that area is already so commercial. There's not much harm that will be done by this bridge. Though if I'm wrong about that, someone should speak up and correct me. To the extent that we can use low carbon materials, low carbon concrete, or avoid petro-derived materials like asphalt, that would be great. I had talked about the wooden bridge that's over Route 127, so there we're using a natural material. But again, maintenance costs need to be considered as well as maintenance materials. It's not just the impacts of the initial material that need to be considered.
That's a really, really good points. All right, I'm looking. I don't see any other hands up. Anybody else have any thoughts on this?
So the other thing I'm thinking about, so there's the new Market Street in South Burlington, and there's low-income housing there. So if somebody was without a vehicle, this path could be a mechanism for them to get to a job in Burlington or something like that. So if there's an alternative, if there could be something from Market Street straight across to, if it has to be down there, that could be a mechanism to make a commute that is a walking commute for somebody or a biking commute from that low-income area more doable.
Yeah, really good point.
So just to comment, there actually, as I'm sure you know, are bike lanes along Dorset Street. So there is the potential to tie into those directly from an overpass. Of course, there are not bike lanes along, well, actually there are some bike lanes along that section of Williston Road also, though I guess we're trying to avoid using those for this project. We're trying to create alternatives to them. But there's also no bike lane on Williston Road east of essentially the Shell station, east of Dorset Street. A question I have is, in Burlington, the sidewalks are plowed by the city. Are those Dorset Street bike paths and sidewalks plowed by South Burlington?
We're getting a yes on that because I didn't know the answer, but Alana gave us the thumbs up that that's a yes.
Great. So this will be cleared when it snows. That's good to know.
Yes.
Just want to call out that Dan has their hand raised also again.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for allowing us to speak so many times. I'm here again. From a social justice and social sustainability standpoint, I don't know if the green ride, the bike share stuff is this far in South Burlington or not, but if we could get docks at places where people actually want to go, like on Dorset Street or the mall, or basically on both sides, that you could use it to actually commute to a job or to get to like the doctor, that would be fantastic. And again, I think it kind of hinges on, if this is a piece and it later has to be connected with physically protected infrastructure on the west and east side, that I don't know how many people will use it at first, but if there's bike share there, maybe some more people will use it, and then kind of connecting the dots after that, I guess. But bike share stations is my suggestion. So thanks.
Yeah, the bike share stations at the mall don't seem to be in a place where people would necessarily use them, but maybe I'm wrong. Somebody must have data about that.
I think that's a really cool idea. Maybe a satellite office of local motion could be set up over there too.
So I'm not calling out anybody, but you know who you are. There are some people that have been on for the whole meeting and haven't commented on anything, and you know that's okay. We're not shaming anybody here, but at the same time, we'd love for you, even if you don't turn on your camera, to jump in with any of the thoughts that you might have on any of the three topics.
It's Tim Riley here. I think that from the view of bicyclists and that we really have wanted to not have any, an off-ramp to the U Mall area there. I think the city is planning, the U Mall folks are planning some extensive renovations there. And to be able to have a convenience for the folks that live in the new, housing to the west of 89, to have easy access to the U Mall. I think that's important, and we can't overlook that. And certainly with what our goals are for, the Market Street, being able to have convenient access for folks that, do live just west of 89, to be able to have easy pedestrian access to the U Mall and to Market Street. I think that's important. I think it's important to keep that in mind as we design it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I want to piggyback on something someone said a moment ago. There was a message thrown into the chat. I just want to make sure everyone saw it and reads it. Christine Ford comments, there are docs at Healthy Living in the mall, so I want to make sure everyone's aware. And if for some reason you're in an environment where maybe you got a loud background and you can't take yourself off mute, as much as we'd love to hear you, you can also throw your comments into chat or again, the mural board. But so lots of ways to provide feedback. We want to get it any way that we can.
Absolutely. And you know, I think the comment about the docking stations is valid. And what I heard Dan say was it'd be good for us to look at where those would make sense. So, keep those ideas coming. And, I don't want to, hopefully we're not intending to debate any of the comments here tonight. We just want to keep gathering them. So please, I invite anybody to talk about this. And Eddie kicked off this meeting, and she said, "This is I guess I'm going to paraphrase, but this is about how you feel." And I think that we're starting to capture some of that feeling. But I guess the idea of if this wasn't just strictly for commuting, which I think we've really spent a lot of the time talking about it, which is fine. What would make you feel like you'd want to go there and spend time, or what would make the experience of the bridge and or path, good for you or for your family? Any thoughts along those lines?
I would encourage everybody to reflect on your experiences in places where you've had those, walking path, comfortable spaces you enjoy. What are the specific things that come to mind for you that you like about them, and how can we gather that experience here tonight?
I'll jump in again, I guess. Thanks for again having us. I think so. Like the Burlington Colchester Bridge has those bump outs, 2 bump outs where there's like a spot to like chill with your bike and look at the water. It's all concrete. It's on the west side where the Winooski flows into Lake Champlain. But if there are trees and benches, like a kind of spot to actually hang out, like a place, like place making, because there's just so much asphalt and hardscape there that if there are sort of a couple of refuges from the rain and from the wind, or somebody, if you choose to walk with a child in a stroller, a spot to relax and find shade would make it a far more attractive walk and bike, and more people will actually use it. So thanks.
And Dan, were you alluding to in addition to the bump out, like the experience would include like a natural surface like gravel or grass, as opposed to like a concrete surface? Is that what you were?
Yeah, or even containers with plants in them and stuff. Like the 2 bump outs on the Burlington Colchester Bridge is just concrete and like railing, and they're really small. But if there's like a spot with a bench and some green stuff, then that would be attractive and enticing.
So I see Martin has his hand up, but Dan, I just want to like just pick on this thought just a little bit more. Are you envisioning the bump out on the bridge itself, or are you thinking along the path, or is it both?
I think like if it's not just like a straight shot and then like it bumps out that much, like on the bike ped bridge itself.
Okay.
I don't know if it's like a great view over the highway, but it's still a spot to rest and sort of catch your breath or sit down and drink some water or something.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
A term I've heard in the past was pause place. Is that
okay?
Is that reflective of the comment there? Like a place to pause during your ride?
Yeah, I like that. Never heard of that. I like that, Alan. Yeah.
I have a question here, even though I'm here to kind of facilitate the meeting, but like sometimes asking people what they want is helpful to get some thoughts, but sometimes asking the inverse is really good too. And so you've kind of alluded to the size of bump outs and things like that, but thinking a little more broadly, are there any experiences that you don't want to see? I think we have kind of covered the length of the route before, but maybe other from the aesthetic perspective, anything that just would be either an adamant showstopper or just something that's not preferred. I think sometimes capturing those things are helpful as well.
So I'll jump in. I'm actually answering the question precedent to the one you just asked, Alan. The question triggered my thinking, which bike paths do I really enjoy? And for example, I live near Centennial Field, but I bicycle along Spear Street and down the Swift Street bike path to go shopping at the city market at the south end, because those paths are tree lined. You know, the forest is so dense going from Farrell Park to Zeminski Park near the condos. I can't think of what street it is there, up near Spear Street. The trees are so dense, it is so natural, it's almost magical. And I really love that ride. Even though it's a lot closer, I don't go to shop on Dorset Street because of the concrete pathway and the, frankly, almost terrifying need to cross the entry and exit ramps from 89. So having a lot of greenery really appeals to me and draws me to the path. I also like the idea of resting places. There are benches along the bike paths I just mentioned. Frankly, I almost never stop at them, but I could see where they would be an enticement, especially to a pedestrian or an older individual who wanted to stop and just take in natural beauty. And I think that's the key I'm hearing both from Dan and that I'll reiterate here. There's something very calming and attractive about nature. So to the extent that could be used in the design of the path, I think would make it that much more enticing.
So I'm gonna ask a leading question along those lines. If you were on the bridge or on the path, and you were imagining yourself there looking for an experience, and given the location of where the path is and the bridge, would you see yourself more focused on the activity and the experience on the path or on the bridge versus the experience looking off from the path, let's say on over the interstate, or a view from the bridge or the path?
It's hard if you ask a commuter that question, because that's just going to put people in our way. So, and it also depends what the walls are like and what the edge is like, and if there are trees, and if you can't see anything, you know, you could put a scavenger hunt along there, and you could have a whole bunch of gnomes along the way that people go see the 18 gnomes, and they're there for a tour of the gnomes. I don't think a bridge over a highway is probably a place that looks as nice as this place with the water here for people to pause and kind of gaze over the tractor trailer trucks running underneath. So if somebody was going to have an experience, I guess it's along the path and not along the bridge. But again, from the commuter's perspective, that just sounds annoying.
Yeah, I echo Chris's statement. There's a difference between overlooking Lake Champlain toward the Adirondacks on the bridge over the Winooski and what you're going to see from a bridge over I-89. Though I guess if it's positioned right and high enough, you might be able to see Mount Mansfield over to the east, but it would certainly be an obstructed view.
All right, well, we've heard a lot, and we've tried to ask leading questions, and I think we're going to, start to wind this down, we'll just give like a 5-minute notice. And I think I'd just open it up for anybody that has any other thoughts. Again, we've got 20 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm told that we now have 20 minutes. So, okay. All right. So, sorry, I don't mean to rush anybody. So, but the offer still stands for folks to offer any other thoughts.
You have a longer last point that you'd like
Yes.
to share than the brief one.
There are two good comments in the chat. I'll take an opportunity to read them out. Corey asks, can you consider ways to make cars not as loud and prominent in the places to stop along the path? I'm presuming not an overall engineering study to reduce the decibel level of cars, but maybe ways to buffer the sound. But then Martin is quick to reply, electric cars are coming, Corey. They should be quieter, which I agree with. But I think Corey's overall point is a good one. Any ways to buffer or somehow reduce the noise of the cars from reaching pedestrians and bicyclists' ears.
Yeah, no, I think that is a good point.
Yeah, put that under the path category too. Reduce noise from vehicles.
It seems that I missed the earlier part of the meeting. My name is Ryan Thornton. I don't know if you're taking comments on this issue, but just the route of the bridge seems to me to be quite inconvenient. I'm not sure exactly how this would play out, but it looks like maybe we'd have to go downhill, then back uphill to meet with Williston Road. I'd like a little bit of information on that. I understand it seems like you want to make this a pleasant experience for people on bicycles, which I appreciate. But it seems to me the most pleasant would be just to let us go across the bridge safely as directly as possible. This seems to me more recreational minded, which isn't really going to help us much with our commute share. I understand I don't know all the details of this design and why this was chosen, so, but those are just my thoughts on the issue.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And, others have shared similar thoughts probably just before you jumped on. And the grade of the proposed path has not been, finalized at this point, but your initial thought is valid. We have to get from essentially the level of the street to an elevation that's great enough to get over the interstate with enough clearance. So there is probably somewhere in the order of a 15-foot or so grade rise there. How that's achieved at this point is still kind of up in the air. There were some concepts that were thrown out earlier in the meeting that had switchbacks or other types of things that could work for both pedestrians and bicyclists. And we're taking comments on those types of amenities, not really amenities, but those types of facilities at this point. So, with that, we're also not really coming up with technical solutions tonight. We're just hearing the input. So we do appreciate that, and we've grabbed it, and Jeff's put it on the board as a comment for the design team to consider. So I don't know if that's, certainly there are some scoping reports and other things out there that you could get more information on. And if you want to give us your email, we can make sure you get that information after the meeting. So, yeah. Any other thoughts? Anything we haven't covered yet? Any ideas?
Yeah, thank you for that information. Just as a follow-up, if I was going to go across the bridge here at the red line that I'm seeing, would I be able to connect more directly with Dorset Street? Like, is there going to be some sort of shared use path where I don't have to go back up to Williston Road and go around? Just curious about that.
I'm gonna try to change the color of that line. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
blue.
you got a red line, and make sure we're talking about the right line.
Let's do.
Okay, but Ryan, you were talking about the heavy dashed line, right, for the proposed route. If the bridge was where that line is shown, you're asking if there's going to be any more direct connections onto Dorset Street.
Right. Yeah. Just some more options for connectivity.
So
on the other side of that bridge.
without having all of those answers right now, I think your comment is that you would like opportunities for those connections as part of the project.
Yeah. If this is the design as it has to be, then as much connectivity as possible. Right.
Okay. Thank you. And I think that, you know, there's been some other comments that mirror that. So I think that's a theme that we have uncovered in our comments here. So thank you.
Just want to point out that Christine Ford dropped a great link into the chat. I think probably based on her prior experience about how the alignment was arrived at. So if anyone's got questions about the length or location or things like that, that might be a good link to perhaps open in a browser tab and save for later. So feel free to open up the chat and grab that while you can.
Thank you, Christine.
So I know we've talked about commuters definitely using Route 2 as a way to get to and from work. And then we also briefly touched on people just having this path as a destination. Can we think of any other user groups that might want to use this path, need to use this path? I know there's a great point earlier about the low-income housing on Market Street maybe needing to get across. And then if we had bike docks, I think that's definitely a huge point with this project is we're trying to hit on a lot of different groups. So curious if anyone has any ideas on that.
I put one comment in about UVM students. I think they could go do their grocery shopping if they could get across into the mall area from all those apartments on the west side there. I also think there's a housing shortage. So if South Burlington were to build some more housing in this new Market Street neighborhood and Dorset Street, that could also give people access, again, back to jobs downtown.
There's another question about who else. Yeah, I think you maybe hit on this one, Sierra. Like who are the groups that are not being, here it is. Yeah, what other potential users of the bridge not represented tonight should we be reaching out to? I like that prompt just to get everyone thinking about other groups maybe couldn't make it tonight, and what are some thoughts in everyone's mind about who may be missing and what their thoughts may be on this project.
I think Dan's got his hand up.
Yeah, thanks. So another point too is maybe where it starts and ends is how it connects to a GMT stop, a really safe GMT stop. So if you're connecting multimodally like that, you can get off and maybe bike west, or even build it in such a way that it could be possible to put that in the future to connect non-car modes of transportation. So just another idea to connect those two modes.
Yeah,
Good
that's a
point.
great point.
So I see kids with their parents on Market Street every day. And I don't know where the Chamberlain School, I think it's Chamberlain, pulls from, but there could be kids who would go to school via said path if there are people on Spear Street that would go to that school. Or the high school, for that matter, is down, and the middle school too, are down Dorset Street.
Very true. folks 5 more minutes, I suppose, right?
Yeah, and I was just gonna jump in and say, I don't know if anybody has any questions. If you were here earlier, folks went over sort of the next steps. Does everybody kind of know generally what we're going to be doing after tonight and for the next few months as we develop 3 concepts for the path and the bridge, and then have another round of public input like tonight? Is there any questions on process or next steps?
I have a kind of a meta level question as a person here who's trying to facilitate the online portion, because we wanted to try to make this as accessible as we could, a virtual, an in-person component and a virtual component. If there's any feedback you have about how well this is working, to let us know, or if you'd like to see certain changes for the virtual piece that might make your participation better, please let us know, because we'll do whatever we can for the next one to foster that level of action and participation. So please throw it at us.
A couple of thoughts I just had. One, when the path is being built, if the gravel can be put in enough underneath it that it doesn't end up all frost heaved in a short period of time. And secondly, this happens along Dorset, the trees basically can take a cyclist right off their bike because they're too short and they aren't trimmed. So if you're planting trees, can you push them back a little bit from the path, or come up with a maintenance plan that makes sure that they're trimmed high enough that a cyclist can get under them?
Good points. Yeah. Trees get bigger. All right. A couple more minutes. Any parting thoughts? All right. If not, then I think we're gonna close out this breakout session, and then you'll be put out, and they're going back out into the general session, which is going to start in a few minutes.
Everyone's going to stay right here because we actually didn't move people.
Okay.
So we're just going to sit tight, and we're going to wait for the people physically in the room to rejoin everyone here. So
awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us in the breakout session. Again, feel free to send the comments. We'll strive to do better next time if there's something that we can do better. But really appreciate the interaction, and I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you.
And one thing to note about this mural session, this link is available to you guys. You guys can continue adding to it if you didn't have time or your computer with you or something during this meeting where you couldn't add. We can take feedback all night. And I mean, we are trying to produce some concepts tomorrow, as Aaron alluded to in the presentation earlier. So, but we can always go back to this. And I mean, I'll be referencing it later to look at what people said. So.
Yeah, please continue to collaborate.
I mean, this link is never ending. I mean, it won't expire, but I don't know at what point we will stop looking for new sticky notes that were added is all. How will they be able to comment?
No, I'm saying we'll be taking comments regardless.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Regardless of the technology we use, the comments will still be open. Yeah, right.
And this is Matt one more time from here in the auditorium. We're going to be rejoined momentarily by the rest of our in-person folks. Before we do that, I definitely want to thank everybody out there on the Zoom side for rolling with us tonight. We're definitely learning a bit as we go, and we appreciate your patience and your creativity and your feedback. And I think the one last thing we need to do is we need to assign someone who is going to very quickly summarize this great discussion we had when we do get back together and have a quick recap. So who's it going to be?
Are you looking to one of us to do that recap?
I would think so.
Yes. What do you think, Wayne? You want to do it, or want me to take a stab?
I'm happy to have you do it, or I can. Go ahead. Yeah.
When the crew comes back in?
Yep. Yeah.
All right. I'll take my stab and Wayne will correct me.
Best of luck to you. One more time, thanks
Nice
everybody
work.
out there. We appreciate it. And please stay tuned because not only will we share our discussion, but we're also going to hear from the other in-person groups who met. So we'll get some different perspectives on what went on out there in the hall.
Jeff, just to let you know, key to not getting selected to do the wrap up is to turn your video off, which is why I did that so quickly. So just a pro tip for next time.
Well done, Alan. A wiser man than me. Now, there was a lot of great feedback in this session. Happy to share
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
This mural is littered with Post-its, and that's awesome.
Yeah, there's definitely some repeats, but
yeah,
we probably were adding the same one.
You and I were duplicating our efforts a little. I knew that, but I figured it would be better to
Okay.
double do it.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you know.
Was this mine? This was mine, right? This was not yours?
No.
Okay, yeah, this is mine.
We don't use plastic, Jeff.
I know, sir. I told you it was my regret today not having my water bottle.
Get one fast. You just gonna run the rest of the show? From here?
Do we not stay up here to do that recap? I can leave. I'll leave.
And I just got the word from Aaron that folks will be coming back in within a minute or so. If anybody needs to get a drink of water, get up and stretch. This is a great time to do that.
Excellent. Thanks for that heads up, Matt. Also, just as something Matt pointed out a moment ago, when we get mixed in with the folks that are there in person and they share their feedback, if you all have reactions or feedback to that feedback, that's another great way. Because if we were all in the same exact location, that's what we would be doing. So let's not let the digital barrier keep us separated. Let's work together. So feel free to raise your hand if you're hearing some comments that are maybe summarized and surfaced from the in-person ones that either resonate or maybe don't resonate. Throw out some comments or use the reactions, whatever. Let's just participate any way that works for you.
I'll just move my laptop out of there and stand.
Aaron, I sent you the link to add
Hey, Alan, we're just about ready here in the auditorium. And one more time, want to thank all of our online folks for their patience while people filter back in here from the in-person breakouts.
Great. Thanks for that update, Matt.
Okay. Thanks for coming back in. I heard a lot of great discussion, a lot of great comments. I think some folks were questioning, can I say that? And this is the night to say it. Get it all out there. As I said, if you think of something after the fact, after you go home a couple of days and you're thinking about it, feel free to hop on the city's website. We'll get a link up there so that we can share out the virtual room. We'll share the PowerPoint presentation, the examples that we've got there, and there will be a place to add some more comments if you'd like. So very quickly, just want to have each of our designees from each of the groups just come up and give maybe like a 60-second high level, what were the main themes that we saw and heard, and just so everybody can get a little bit of a flavor from each of the groups. And let's start with Jeff. Jeff was part of the virtual group.
All right, I will do my best. We got a lot of feedback in the virtual room, and I know I'm not going to hit on all the points when I try to recap here, but I'll try to hit on the big ones. We've heard a lot of feedback just on the alignment of the bridge, some preferences for commuters to have a more direct route across the interstate rather than the southerly roundabout route that is shown. But we also heard a lot about some of the preferred materials that we'd want to see. So a lot of folks preferred some more natural looking materials of the bridge. Vermont is a very green state, and kind of having plants and more natural looking features, but also keeping things durable and lower maintenance, not, going for the durable and rather than the overly pretty was a preference that we heard. So that was great. We heard some opinions about pause places, so places where people can pull over, take a break, enjoy the scenery. People had a lot of good thoughts on how to do that and some of the features that should be included with those pause places. And we heard a lot of comments about connectivity, so making sure that this bridge really connects with the U Mall and other neighborhoods of South Burlington. We heard about UVM students having a link across the interstate, some low-income housing areas in the area having good connectivity, having good bike sharing locations for places that we could put docks that are more promoting good connectivity in the area. So that's probably more than 30 seconds. There was a lot of content. I was pretty impressed with everybody who participated online, and I think that's it.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Sure. Eddie, do you want to come up and share from your group?
Well, thank you, everyone. That was so much fun. We got so many ideas, and I think what was really nice is that some of the ideas actually were contradicting each other, which is great because we're going to then explore both. But what keep coming back was we want it to be safe. We want it to be year-round, possibly Vermontish, and another one is modern, forward-thinking. Use the most cutting edge technology, and art and lighting should be integrated. And there was a suggestion, mainly from Tyler, or a question: should the bridge be the art object, or should the art be be part of the bridge. Everyone want both. So that was really good. And how's the experience of the bridge? We want it to be green, but we want it to also be aesthetic. The bridge should be beautiful. It should be somewhat something that will stop you. It gives South Burlington an identity and putting it in the map. Awesome. So I'm sure I'm missing a lot, but it was so much fun. We have great ideas. We are going to like digest all of these things, and hopefully we'll come back with something that is great and fun and fulfill a lot of the comments. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Eddie. And then Natanya? I probably should have said Jeff's group covered all 3 topics online. Eddie's group covered the bridge, and Natanya's group covers the pathway.
Well, not my group. I was just the note taker.
You're
Still
part of-
got the
you're part
notes
of the
in
group.
my hand. It's amazing. I'll take my mask off. It's amazing how many commonalities we see across the board. But in our group in particular, and this language is going to sound familiar now, we're seeing connectivity coming up a lot. Naming of like, we don't want this to be isolated. Will there be lighting? Will there be multiple connections and on and off ramps, things of that nature? A lot of attention towards the usability, practicality of the bridge, things such as lighting and sound. What does it look like to engage on this bridge? And what does it look like to really make a name for South Burlington utilizing this pathway? So those were the main pieces that came up. Also just the functionality, both for pedestrians and walkers in utilizing this bridge in a way that makes sense. I love that so many people were like, why don't we move this all together? It was really cool to hear the broad range of pluralized options. Yeah, that's what came out.
Great, thank you. Zariah, do you want to come up? And Zariah was part of the group that explored the project sustainability, environmental, and other concerns. Although I think all groups kind of merged a lot of the topics.
Yeah, I think we all merged. So on the sustainability group, we of course focused first on sustainable local and low maintenance materials and designs. Similar to other groups, talked about this being a symbol of South Burlington and what that means in terms of having the focus be nature, greenery, sustainability, renewable energy, some of those things, and some preference for the first image that we saw in terms of bridges. We talked a lot about disengaging and disconnecting, first from the highway, so both visually and in sound, and then making a smart choice between either deliberately disconnecting from things like the back of the U-Mall or by enhancing some kind of connectivity to it, making a decision between those things. And then we talked a lot about bike paths and walkability, as all the groups did. So thinking about going beyond the pathways we currently have proposed, which could mean both going further south than we're currently thinking about going, or thinking about those busy intersections at the north of the project for safety and continuity, were some of the key points.
Awesome, thank you so much. And we had one other group, Dan or Mike. Dan was part of a group that focused on the pathway, but again.
Yeah, a lot of the same key components. Connectivity obviously was a big component of our group's focus. Not so much the connection between the two communities along Williston Road, but the connections between the neighborhoods. The east-west just south of that connection, it was really important. Even if those connections can't be established as part of this overall project, making sure that the path alignment and infrastructure is there to accommodate future connections down the road. One other component that came up a lot was making sure there's adequate separation from the path from the interstate and making sure there's that noise and air and pollution buffer between commuters on the interstate and the users of the bike path.
Great, thanks, Dan. So this is right towards the end of our night tonight, And just, we really want to encourage everybody to stay involved as the project continues to take shape. There are a couple of different ways to stay involved. As I mentioned, the city's website will have updates on it and some links. And then there will be some follow-up workshops. We're going to go to work starting tomorrow, pulling together our ideas for the concepts. We'll be back in front of the public and the stakeholders for the project in a couple of months, and then again later in the year, and then ultimately in front of the city council about the November timeframe to put forward the concept that comes from this process. So just want to open it up. I know everybody's talked quite a bit tonight and given a lot of input, but if there's any kind of final questions, feel free to speak up now. And then if you want to, take a few days and offer questions, or if you have questions after you go home, feel free to get in touch with Alana. Her city email address is on here and her phone number. She'll accept input either way.
And I'll pass it on.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I want to make a point about sustainability and also the permanence. So many bike paths turn pretty crummy after a couple of years because they didn't have enough.
We'll just want to get that question restated because I think folks on the line couldn't hear it.
Just about the sustainability and the permanence of the project. Bike paths all too often fall apart after a few years. They get bumpy and between ice and tree roots because they didn't have a decent enough infrastructure and they weren't built with a long term in mind. So we only have a limited budget, but keep in mind that if it's just a layer of asphalt on the ground or minimal infrastructure, it's not going to last very long and it won't be used very much.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming. We'll look forward to, was there a, no? Okay. Thanks everybody for coming. We look forward to seeing you in a couple months.
Thanks everyone.